Every empire thinks it's different. Every superpower believes the laws of decline don't apply to them, that somehow, through innovation, democracy, or divine favor, they've escaped the cycle that devoured every empire before them. But the truth is darker. The same pattern that buried Spain, broke Britain, and bankrupted the Soviet Union is now unfolding again. And this time, it's America's turn. Because history doesn't repeat itself, it compounds. The pattern doesn't vanish, it evolves. Empires rise the same way, they rot the same way, and they collapse the same way, always convinced that this time is different. The scary part? America is following the exact same pattern that's destroyed every global empire for the last 500 years, stage by stage, decision by decision, almost like it's reading from a script written centuries ago. And if history holds true, the final act won't be decided by elections or wars, but by debt, delusion, and decay. So let's go back to where this cycle began, to the birth of the first truly global empire, because that's where America's future is hiding. It started with Spain. In the 1500s, Spain discovered something that felt like divine proof of destiny: gold and silver from the New World. Mountains of it. By 1590, Spain controlled half the world's precious metals. Its ships carried treasure across the Atlantic. Its soldiers ruled continents. Its kings were called Most Catholic Majesty. The illusion of endless wealth created a psychological disease every empire catches in its golden age: the belief that money itself is power. Spain stopped producing. It started consuming. Why build when you can buy? Why innovate when you can extract? And so the Spanish crown flooded Europe with silver. Prices soared. Wages stagnated. The empire that seemed richest became the first victim of what economists would later call inflation. It wasn't conquered by enemies, it was hollowed out by abundance. The lesson? Empires don't die when they run out of money. They die when they lose the discipline that created it. The next empire learned from Spain's failure, or thought it did. The Dutch built an empire not of kings, but of merchants. They invented the world's first stock exchange, first central bank, and first publicly traded company, the Dutch East India Company. While Spain chased gold, the Dutch created money from paper. It was efficient, rational, scientific, and it made them the richest people on earth. But again, the same pattern reappeared. Wealth turned into speculation. Production turned into profit chasing. Finance devoured the real economy. Amsterdam became the Wall Street of the 17th century, a glittering financial hub that forgot how to make anything but deals. And when the wars came, when trade routes broke, when confidence cracked, the Dutch system imploded under its own leverage. The empire that invented capitalism drowned in its own credit. Sound familiar? After the Dutch came the British. They took the machinery of finance and fused it with the machinery of industry. Coal, steam, iron, gunpowder. Britain didn't just build ships, it built systems. The British Empire became a network of extraction, from India's cotton to Africa's gold, all flowing through the city of London. For a century, it seemed unstoppable. They said the sun never set on the British Empire, but every empire's golden hour hides the same shadow. The same illusion that the empire's currency is eternal. The British pound became the global reserve currency, the world's trust anchor, and that trust became addiction. By the late 1800s, Britain's wealth depended not on production, but on financial flows, on interest payments, colonial rents, and foreign investment. Then came the wars. World War I drained the treasury. World War II finished the job. When Churchill went to Washington in 1946, begging for a loan, Britain wasn't an empire anymore, it was a debtor. The pound collapsed, the empire dissolved. And once again, the cycle turned. When Britain fell, America rose. The United States emerged from World War II not destroyed, but supercharged. Its factories produced half the world's goods. Its currency backed by the world's gold. Its military stretched across the globe. In 1944, at Bretton Woods, the US dollar became the world's new anchor. Every nation's wealth was measured against it. Every central bank held it. The United States could print what the world needed and charge interest for it. It was empire through credit. Instead of colonies, America had consumers. Instead of gunboats, it had the Federal Reserve. And for decades, it worked spectacularly, until, like all empires, the illusion began to rot. In 1971, President Nixon severed the dollar's link to gold. It was supposed to be temporary. It wasn't. From that moment on, the empire ran not on production, but on faith. Faith that the dollar was still worth something. Faith that debt could expand forever. Faith that America was too powerful to fail. And just like Spain with its silver, the floodgates opened. Money creation without discipline. Consumption without production. Speculation without accountability. Wall Street became the new empire. An empire of numbers detached from reality. Empires always hit this stage. The stage where growth becomes debt-fueled illusion. In Rome, they called it bread and circuses. In Spain, it was gold shipments. In Britain, it was colonial extraction. In America, it's credit cards, student loans, and the stock market. The empire stops building, it starts borrowing. The citizens stop producing, they start consuming. The government stops leading, it starts managing decline through stimulus. Every crisis becomes an excuse to print more money. Every bailout becomes a new precedent. And the markets, drunk on liquidity, celebrate their own addiction. But debt is not neutral, it's a promise. And every promise comes due. This is where empires start to panic. Because once you need money just to survive the day, not to grow, not to build, just to exist, the endgame has already begun. When an empire begins to decay financially, it compensates militarily. It flexes power abroad to hide weakness at home. Spain fought endless wars it couldn't afford. Britain ruled seas it could no longer fund. The Soviet Union poured billions into tanks and missiles while its people starved. And today, America's military budget is larger than the next 10 nations combined. While bridges collapse, cities decay, and the middle class disappears. This is not strength, it's substitution. The illusion of power replacing the substance of stability. Every empire in history, when faced with fiscal decay, doubles down on projection, not protection. They try to control the world because they've lost control at home. And when the costs outweigh the illusion, the empire finally breaks. The final stage of empire is not marked by invasion or even by defeat. It's marked by disbelief. The people stop believing in their leaders. The world stops believing in their currency. And the system stops believing in itself. For Spain, it was when its silver became worthless. For Britain, when the pound collapsed. For the Soviet Union, when no one showed up to defend it. For America, it will be when the dollar loses what no government can ever restore once it's gone: trust. You can print money. You can't print confidence. And the moment that confidence cracks, the moment foreign nations begin settling trade in other currencies, the moment US debt loses its risk-free status, the moment ordinary people realize that their dollars are melting, the empire will enter its final descent. That descent doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, silent, psychological. It looks like polarization. It feels like stagnation. It sounds like outrage. Empires don't end with a bang. They end with disbelief. Across 5 centuries, every empire's rise and fall can be traced to 3 forces: energy, debt, and faith. Energy is what powers expansion, whether it's Spanish ships, British coal, or American oil. Debt is what amplifies that energy. It accelerates growth, but it also multiplies fragility. And faith. Faith in currency, leadership, and future prosperity is what keeps the system glued together. When faith breaks, energy declines, and debt explodes, the system collapses from within. And if you look closely at America today, all 3 forces are converging. The energy that built the 20th century empire, oil, is running into limits. The debt that funded the illusion of prosperity has reached absurd levels. And the faith that once made the dollar the world's religion is eroding. That's the endgame of empire. Not invasion, not revolution, but disbelief. Every empire thinks it's different because decline is not an economic process, it's a psychological one. The first stage is arrogance. It can't happen to us. The second is denial. It's just temporary. The third is distraction, endless debates, partisan theatre, scapegoats. The final stage is apathy. Why bother? When a people lose belief in their own future, the empire is already gone. It just hasn't realized it yet. That's where America is today, trapped between denial and distraction, pretending that printing money is the same as creating wealth. But history doesn't forgive illusions. Every collapse births a successor. When Spain fell, the Dutch rose. When the Dutch fell, Britain took over. When Britain collapsed, America inherited the mantle. So who's next? Some say China. Some say a digital empire, one built not on geography, but on data. A new global system of control, where currency, surveillance, and behavior merge into one architecture of influence. The transition won't be peaceful. It never is. But the lesson is timeless. The empire that controls trust controls the world. And in the 21st century, trust doesn't flow through gold or oil. It flows through code. The next empire won't conquer land. It'll conquer belief. This isn't just history. It's your life. Your savings, your retirement, your job, all depend on a system that's entering its late imperial phase. The pattern is visible. The symptoms are everywhere. Currency debasement, asset bubbles, political extremism, moral decay. These aren't random events. They're the mathematics of empire collapse. And while you can't stop the cycle, you can position yourself within it. Empires rise and fall, but individuals who understand the pattern, who see through the illusion, can survive and even thrive. When governments print, own assets. When trust collapses, hold something real. When systems overreach, stay mobile. The empire's fate may be sealed. Yours isn't. Every empire tells the same story, that it's eternal, that its power is moral, its wealth deserved, its collapse impossible. But history whispers the same reply every time. Nothing lasts. The only difference is how each empire chooses to face its end, with delusion or with awareness. Spain ignored it. Britain denied it. The Soviets collapsed under it. America still has a choice. Because the fall of an empire isn't just the end of power. It's the test of a people's character. Will they cling to illusion, or will they awaken? This is the 500-year empire pattern. And whether you realize it or not, you're living through its final chapter.